Where is this recorder? Are we on? Yes, we are. Okay, my best in the world. My best in the West. The sound of scurrying could be heard low down on the ground. It was a whole bunch of scurries. A whole bunch of busy little creatures just working non-stop. Up and down, up and down, up and down. Coming through, cried the one, coming through. He had a big old grass blade that he was carrying on his shoulders. Another one behind him was carrying an even heavier load. He had a stick on his shoulders. Why, these little creatures were carrying loads several times their weight. They were ants, a whole army of ants, and they were on their way back to their nest, carrying food for the winter. The next thing, while the ants were all busy with their task and focusing on getting their food back into their nest, I do. Suddenly, as if out of nowhere, a big old something came from the sky and plucked one of the ants right out from the line and disappeared with it. Alvin the ant had a sneaky suspicion that something was not quite right, and he looked behind him and he saw why his friend had disappeared. Oh my goodness, I wonder what happened, thought Alvin. Well, maybe he just stopped behind a grass blade to relieve himself or something. And he carried on working, and the next thing, Alvin the ant felt himself suddenly being lifted high above the ground. "Whoa, what's going on?" he shouted, and he looked up and he looked around him, and with a horror he realized that he was inside the beak of a hornbill. But he wasn't being swallowed. He was being held very delicately on the tip of the beak, and off the hornbill went flying all the way to his favorite treetop, sitting on his favorite branch, and lo and behold, right there on the branch next to the hornbill was his best friend, who was Anne. "Hey, Anne, I thought you had stopped to do something." "Oh, I'm so glad to see you," said Alvin. "What's going on?" Alvin looked at him. "I have no idea, but I'm so scared." They held each other tightly. "It's okay, Anne," said Alvin. "Whatever happens, at least we've got each other." The hornbill stood nearby, looking down at them with a smile on his face. "Oh, you two," he said. "You think I'm going to eat you, don't you?" The two ants looked up trembling from the branch. "Oh, Mr. Hornbill, please don't eat us." "Oh, don't you worry about that," said the hornbill. "I've got a much better use for you." And with that, he picked up Anne, separated her from Alvin. "Please don't hurt me, Mr. Hornbill." And with that, he started gently rubbing Anne's abdomen all along his feathers. And with that rubbing, a strange secretion started coming out from Anne. It was called ascorbic acid, and it was a defense mechanism, the last line of defense that Anne decided to secrete before being gobbled up by the hornbill. The hornbill smiled, and he said, "Don't worry again. I'm really not going to eat you up. You see, these lice have been troubling me so much lately, and I need to borrow some of your ascorbic acid," said the hornbill, "in order to, well, chase these pesky lice away. They're really making me itch all over," he added. "Oh," said Anne, "is that all?" "Well, yes," said the hornbill, "and I'm sorry I made you so scared, but, well, I had no other option. And with that, he started gently rubbing Anne's abdomen again, up and down his feathers, all around, getting some of the acid onto him. The next thing, he gently picked up Alvin, and he started doing the same. "Oh, well, this is not so bad," said Alvin. "Wow, actually this is quite an adventure. I've never been this high before, and I've never roller coasted through a hornbill's feathers before either," he added, laughing. "Whee!" He gave a cry as he was pushed to and fro, up and down the strong primary feathers and in amongst the secondary soft fluffy feathers. The next thing, the hornbill stopped. "Well, I'm finished," he said, and prepared to fly off. Whoa, wait. Whoa, Mr. Hornbill, not so fast," cried Alvin. "Well, what now? I needed you, and now I'm off to find me some grubs," said the hornbill. "Well, you can't leave us up here," said Alvin. "We're far away from home. How on earth are we going to get back to our nest? I don't even know where it is," added Alvin. "Oh, I'm sure you'll find your way," said the hornbill, and started making his way off again. Whoa, wait," cried Anne. "You can't do that. Please, Mr. Hornbill," cried Anne. You really need to take us back to our nest. I mean, we have to climb this big old tree, and we are so high up. And besides, there's all kinds of predators on their way. Especially the dreaded aardvark. I mean, the favorite food of aardvark is ants," added Anne. "You can't let us make the dangerous journey back home and possibly be aardvark food." "Well, all right," said the hornbill. "I am rather busy, but yeah, I guess that was rather selfish of me, wasn't it?" he added. "I've done that with all the other ants, and, well," and he just stopped, thinking to himself, "I guess that would not be a very good thing at all," he added again. With that, he gently picked up the two ants. "Well, how about while we fly, you have a good view of what's around you?" laughed the hornbill. It fell off. Okay, I need to stop this. Come on. Is it the double stripe? And with one quick movement, the hornbill tossed the ants up onto the crown of his head. "Hold on tight," said the hornbill. Off he went flying up into the sky, back towards the nest of the ants. "Yippee!" cried the two ants. "Wow, this is exciting," said Alvin. Poor Anne was clutching on for dear life. "This is not exciting at all," she cried. "I'm scared of heights. And, well, we are really, really high," she added, trembling. Alvin moved a little closer and put his little arm around her. "It's okay, just hold on tight," said Alvin. And off they went flying. Off the hornbill went flying all the way down to their nest. With that, he gently dropped his head, and off the ants popped onto the ground. "Thank you, Mr. Hornbill, for taking us home." "Oh, it's a pleasure," said the hornbill. And he turned around, and he was prepared to fly away. And the next minute, a dark shadow loomed overhead. It became larger and larger and larger. This time it was the hornbill who started trembling and became afraid. Suddenly, he made a dive towards a deep bush and hid under it. just as the shadow swooped down, inches past where the hornbill's head had been, it was a peregrine falcon, and it was looking for a hornbill for a tasty snack of his own. Swoosh! The peregrine falcon swooped past. The hornbill lay under the bush, trembling with fear. The peregrine falcon made a steep turn and made a beeline straight towards the bush. Alvin looked at the whole scenario. Anne turned to Alvin and said, "What must we do?" said Anne. "We can't just leave our friend to be attacked by a falcon. We need to help him." With that, Alvin turned back towards the nest, made a big old whistle. The next thing, the whole army of ants, who knew that whistle was a whistle for danger, especially when they were outfoxed, immediately turned from what they were doing in their tasks and looked towards Alvin. "Hey, Alvin, you're back," cried one of the ants. "Where have you been?" "It's no time for that now," said Alvin. I really need your help. We need to do something. And this machine is beeping, and we need to do something. Mr. Matthew, why are you clenching your fist like this? Let's get your... "We have a friend in trouble," said Alvin, "and he's going to be the lunch of a peregrine falcon if we don't act quickly." The ant turned and looked at the hornbill. "And why on earth should I help a hornbill?" "Yes," cried some of the other ants. "Why should we help a hornbill?" "Well," said Alvin, trying to think of something to say to convince his friends. "Well, friends come in unusual places, with unusual species too," added Alvin. "And these two and this hornbill, well, let me just say, he gave us the adventure of our lifetime. And he didn't even harm us. And we really, really need to help him because he's becoming our friend," he added. Well, all the ants knew how important a sense of community is, since they all acted as a community to build their nest, to breed, to protect against incoming invaders. They understood community. And so the ant in the colony turned to the others and said, "Well, that's good enough for me," he said. "Come on, boys, let's see if we can help this friend out. Whoever is a friend of Alvin and Anne is a friend of ours," he added. And off the army of ants came, running towards Alvin. "What must we do?" "Well," said Alvin, "as soon as that peregrine falcon lands, he's going to go right under that bush to where Mr. Hornbill is hiding. And we need to make a dash towards that falcon, jump up onto his legs, and bite him as hard as we can, in order to deter the falcon. But don't climb too high," he warned, "because that falcon is going to climb back up into the sky, and then you're not going to be able to find your way back to the nest." "Okay, aye, sir, let's do it." And so the colony of ants, the army of ants, they made a tight formation just next to the bush, hiding under the grass blade. They waited. And the next thing, the shadow loomed larger again as the peregrine falcon started swooping. "It's okay, Mr. Hornbill," said Alvin the ant. "You just stay right there." The hornbill nodded, too afraid to speak in any case, but trusting his friend. The next thing, the peregrine falcon landed on the ground and made a beeline straight under the bush to where the hornbill was hiding. As the falcon drew closer and closer and closer, the next thing, Alvin called the command, and the whole army of ants made a beeline straight towards the legs of the falcon. They started climbing up his talons, straight up to the lower portion of his legs. Fortunately, peregrine falcon has got unfeathered legs, so this made it a little easier to get to the soft skin between the talons. "Ah, this will be perfect," cried Alvin. "Bite between the talons, bite between the talons," he cried out. And the next thing, the whole army of ants lifted up their heads, opened up their jaws, and bit down as hard as they could. The peregrine falcon got the fright of his life. "Ow, ow, 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 ow," he cried out, jumping up and down, dancing like a crazed little maniac, trying to stomp the ants, but quite unable to do that, since all the ants had already climbed onto his legs. "That hurts, stop it," cried the falcon, as he jumped around, trying to stomp, trying to peck with his beak. Of course, the more he pecked at his legs, well, the more he hurt himself, since now he was starting to peck at his own skin. He didn't know what to do, and the next thing, he prepared to fly off, away from the hornbill as far as he could, just to get away from that awful, awful biting. Alvin cried out the command, "Jump off, boys, jump off. He's ready to fly, he's ready to fly." The next thing, all the ants jumped off the talons of the falcon onto the ground, and the next thing, the falcon flew up into the sky, away and beyond. Alvin called out at the hornbill. "Danger's over," he smiled. "All is safe." The hornbill slowly and cautiously crept out from under the bush, looking up fearfully up at the sky, and seeing that the coast is clear, he looked down at the ants. "Well, you two saved my life. Thank you so, so much," said the hornbill. "However can I repay you?" "Oh, that's okay," said the ant. "We're a community, and besides, we're friends now." The hornbill looked thoughtfully at the two ants, and then looked on a little bit more sadder. He said, well, how can you be my friends? I mean, all I did was use you for your ascorbic acid." And then he added, "I was just going to fly off and leave the two of you up at the top of the tree. I am a very, very selfish person," added the hornbill. "And yet you still want to be my friend, even after saving my life." "Well, of course," said Alvin the ant. "I mean, besides, you gave us quite a good ride back to the nest. That was quite an adventure," he added. "Wow," said the hornbill. "That is really, really amazing. And absolutely, I will love to be your friend. And you know what? In return for the favor of you saving me from the peregrine falcon, I will certainly do the same for you," said the hornbill. "So you let me know if any oddfart comes by, or if anything comes by that wants to eat you or harm you guys in any way. I will swoop down and I will do my best to deter any attack and any danger from you." There, Alvin the ant smiled and turned. "You hear that, boys?" he said. "We just made ourselves an ally. A big old bird with a big old beak that would surely deter most of our attackers." And all the ants began to cheer and clap their hands. "That's awesome. Thank you, Mr. Hornbill. We will certainly appreciate having an ally." With that, the hornbill puffed out his chest, saluted, and said proudly to the ants, "At your command, I'm here for you. In fact, there's a big old tree just nearby. I think I'm going to move my nest there. That way, even during the breeding season, I'll always be nearby you guys to guard over you at any point in time." "Why, thank you, Mr. Hornbill. We really, really appreciate that," said the ants. "Thank you," said the hornbill to the ants, "for saving my life. Okay, Mr. Twister. Your monitor is loose again. Mr. Matthew. Daddy just wants to tell you that even if people are selfish at you, look down at you, even if they tease you and say bad stuff about you, well, firstly, Daddy will always protect you. He's kind of like the hornbill. In fact, Mommy and Daddy are even like the ants, because we're a community in this little home, and we will protect you all the days of your life. But even for those that won't, my boy, even for those that are selfish, just like the hornbill was in the beginning, it's always good to be kind and helpful, because it will come back to you in the most unexpected ways. Whether it be from the same person, like the hornbill, or even from a different person. But either way, goodness and kindness and love, well, that always wins, my boy.